There's just come a children's show that's turning that theory on its head. Wallace and Gromit are two gritty, plasticine characters with proud, earthy, working-class values. They've won for creator Nick Park 3 Academy Awards and won the hearts of parents and children alike. Wallace and Gromit live at number 62 West Willoughby Street in an unnamed industrial town somewhere in deepest Lancashire. The time is now. A man called Nick Park was brought into being the world's most popular plasticine stars.
I loved animation since I used to be a cartoonist. I mean, as a kid, you know, I grew up drawing. I loved to draw and do comics, and then I one day discovered that my mother had this movie camera that could take 1 frame at a time. So I did like flip books and filmed them, and then I got some clay, some plasticine, you know, started moving it, and I was 12 or 13 years old, and even as a kid I looked at that and thought, wouldn't it be great to just create characters and that would one day, you know, have a life of their own out there.
Nick Park grew up in Preston, Lancashire, a grimy northern industrial town looking a lot like the set of Wallace and Gromit. Art imitates life. Nick's dad, Robert, was an amateur inventor, just like Wallace. Look, I know I've only just met you, and this is a dreadful liberty, but I mean, there is a resemblance, isn't there?
I feel there is.
Yeah. There's no question what the prototype, where it came from.
What a shame.
Can you see that?
Oh, yes. Yes.
I feel it. When I see him on film, I think I can see a bit of something when I see myself in the mirror.
Oh, yes. When you meet Mum and Dad, you can understand how film became Nick's most eloquent form of expression. Celia, you're Gwendolyn, aren't you?
Well, they say so. I think it's the 2 front teeth that do it.
I was about 12, yeah, and I'd created a character in cartoon strip form called Walter the Rat. My mother, being a dressmaker, had loads of felt bits and pieces, and so I made these cutout of this rat with separate limbs, and I spent a day animating him onto this fuzzy felt kind of board. In daylight as well, so the light keeps going in and out. The sun keeps going behind the clouds. And that lasted about a minute, that film. It's called Rat and the Beanstalk, and that's my first proper animated film. For some reason I can't explain, he finds a bottle of cider, picks up the bottle of cider, and automatically takes a swig, and along comes the giant. There he is, slips. The end. That's it, a day's work. The guy, a British guy who builds a... The joke was he builds a rocket in the basement of his house, and that was kind of the joke, basically. He builds it in the wrong place. And then I thought, maybe he needs an assistant and maybe an animal. He was going to be a cat at first, but then I found a dog easier to make out of plasticine. And so Gromit was born, and Wallace was a character from another sketchbook. I started animating. Gromit was going to speak. He was going to have a voice, but it was a doggy, growly voice. Like he would just repeat in a parrot fashion, really. What Wallace would say. But then when I came to do the very first shot in A Grand Day Out, it was such a difficult thing to move the mouth and everything. So I just tried moving just the eyebrow, and I found I got so much from that I dropped the mouth and the voice that day. I thought, I don't need this. So Gromit was born in that moment. And that's why I think he came from clay, really, from the use of clay. That's why I find the medium very important. That I think that wouldn't have happened if I was using another technique.
Tell you what, Gromit lad. Let's have a nice hot cup of tea.
I think that's the great thing about animation, is that you can make anything in your imagination come to life, and it may not work in the real world, but you can actually give it a reality and make make it work in a very complete world, so it's very believable.